thank you for staying with us. I want to talk about this we started earlier on the program by talking about the occurrence in Ibadan. To date, I think the government's put out the figures of about 5 lives lost and several properties damaged. A host of people
still in hospital.
Some may never be able to get their lives back on stream again. And when things like this happen, naturally people look to government. But after that, at the end of each day, everyone goes to a home and they sleep alone by themselves. Everyone to their pillows. Those who would cry, those who would mourn.
To attend to Israel.
Exactly. And, those who have lost their livelihoods, lost certificates, may never be able to literally completely changed lives altogether. So now, on the one hand, we all know what happened. We've recorded some of these things, but then there is something they call collective grief. I was hearing it for the first time. You are probably hearing it for the first time as well. What does this mean? Let's talk to a grief counselor this morning. Joan Pandey is a grief counselor, and she'll take us through what they call collective grief. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
The Ibadan occurrence is a very touching one. And every time I have to talk to any guest from that side, first thing I'm saying is condolences, because the authorities have to deal with the challenges and all. But talk to us about this collective grief thing. What is it?
Okay, first and foremost, let me, say my condolence to the people of Ibadan, especially the Bodija community. So basically, collective grief is just when a group of people, a community, a nation, or a society, experiences extreme change or loss. So that's basically as simple as that. So it has the difference with the normal grief is that it's unique. Every grief is unique to the individual. So the collective grief is unique, but is also shared amongst a large group of people. So that's basically...
Like what has happened in Ibadan.
Yes, like what has happened in Ibadan now. That's what we call collective grief. So it's affecting a neighborhood, a group of people, a state also. And, you could extend it to Nigeria.
The nation.
Yes, the nation at large.
Okay, so how can you grieve collectively?
Okay. So the people in Bodija or Ibadan, they can come together, like that environment, they can come together, they can, meet and discuss, because now I've lost my house, you've lost your house, you can understand what we're both going through.
We're both feeling.
At this time, exactly, I'm homeless. We're both homeless, so you would understand what I'm going through. So they can actually come together, meet, they can grieve that way. They can also, if they don't want to, they can look for support groups, maybe online, they can go see a professional, and they can take up an advocacy with the government, saying, such things, this illegal kind of things shouldn't go on anymore. So it's like a course you take on, and... So,
how does that differ from pity party?
No, this is way different from pity party. We've both experienced this kind of loss together, So I'm not.
So we're having collective pity party.
Not really pity party. It's like having a shoulder to lean on, especially when someone has gone through what you've gone through, is quite soothing, because it's like I'm either letting out my emotions and you just let me be. You're not saying
because you understand.
Because you have gone through the same thing,
or you are going
exactly,
through what
or you're going through. Yes,
okay.
you know. So you feel how it pinches not to have. You went out and you came back and there's no roof over your head. You know what it is for. Some people have lost. You mentioned it already. Those certificates. There's loss of security and safety. Those are abstract losses. Loss of unfulfilled expectations. So maybe the house we had, it was something I'm going to retire into, and now it's gone.
Or something you have retired
or
into.
you've retired into, or what you want to pass over to your children. Not even with the economy right now. Where are you going to start from? So if we're talking about it, it's more soothing, to talk to someone who is in that show, who has been through, So,
one of the things that you told us the first time we had this conversation about grief, it's a dark subject, so to speak. So generally, talking about it may not be quite exciting for people, but it is the reality that people have to go through. First of all, tell us what the consequences are of improper grieving. What are the consequences of not grieving the way
you should not process your grief? Yes.
And what are the consequences of doing what we shouldn't do in this particular process? There are those who say, one of the ways that people grieve culturally is to have criers. I don't know what the
mourners.
Mourners, thank you. They just go, they cry, and that is it. So what are the consequences of not grieving properly?
Okay, well, when you don't process your grief, in the right way or properly, it has the tendency to affect your mental health, affect you emotionally, and affect you physiologically. You could have, science says about 80% of the diseases we have are from our emotions. So when you don't process those emotions and you just put it all in, you express it. You don't have to cry, but you could go, you're going through anger. There are ways to express, healthy ways to express your anger, and not expressing it has negative effects. So what I would say to people right now, in Ibadan, and even if you're around the world, you're grieving, is express your grief in a healthy way. You could journal, you could listen to music, or rather get into therapy.
We'll come to the proper ways of grieving, but I would like you to expatiate further on the consequences. You've talked about the capacity for it to affect our mental health. Please speak to that more. You see, as you said, people want to just suck it up and move on, not knowing that we're literally postponing the evil day.
Exactly.
And that's what I'd like you to we'll come to how to do it properly, but what are the consequences? Let people know the consequences, the mental consequences you said, and the physiological.
The physiological, yes.
Talk to us about it further.
Yeah, of course. So if, you're having mental health issues, you're not able to function properly, as the way optimally, the way you should function, either as an individual or in an organization, or as a family. So you have to pay, attention, because it's very key. That's what moves us, our emotions and all of that. And if you don't, subconsciously, you begin to react, to people around you, and you pour the frustration on people. So sometimes that could come out as masked grief, So seeing a professional, you'll be able to dig in to know all of these things. And sometimes physiologically, your blood pressure could go up. You just see that. Stress. And then you're going to the hospital every time, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with you. But it's stress. You're emotionally stressed. You're what's it called? your high blood pressure, sugar level could go up, irritable bowel syndrome, sleepless nights, because...
So the entire body system is affected.
Yes, because you see, your mental health, it affects, if your sleep is affected, for instance now, like what they've gone through, people are having sleepless nights, or either insomnia or not even being able to sleep. Now, that also...
nightmares and all.
Exactly. Of course, you would have intrusive, especially if you were, like, there was somebody who said the mother was on the bed and the ceiling fell on her. She was rushed to the hospital naked, So she could have intrusive thoughts coming in, and she probably jolts out of sleep and all of that. Now, that begins to affect you, your ability to function properly. And when that does, you're not able to, of course, function well, and then affects your health in general.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Let me take you back. We keep saying, grieve. Are there different ways of grieving? Some people will sit down and not talk to anybody for days.
Yeah, sure.
And it will be because they are grieving. Some others will cry from morning till night every day. So, what ways are there of grieving?
There are different ways, and there's no right or wrong way to grieve. It is only when it's becoming unhealthy or it's hindering your everyday life, activity. That's when you need to check in,
to see a specialist.
Maybe a psychologist or something, Of course, maybe some people could have seen a counselor or a therapist, but they're not getting better. It's still affecting them. So like you said, there's no right way or wrong way to grieve. So however you feel like expressing yourself in a healthy way, because some people could turn to drugs and alcohol, and that's not healthy. So you could cry, you could write, you could journal, you could listen to music, you could get into your faith, whatever you believe in at that time. Draw strength, friends, talk therapy is quite therapeutic too. Walk in nature, and just let yourself be. So it depends on your individual, how you are. So you can't practically say right now that this is the way you should grieve. So,
yeah, but would you advise crying?
Oh yes,
because
if you're given to crying,
somebody lost a child,
and they haven't been able to cry.
His only son, and he wasn't able to cry. I just felt
he hasn't grieved.
It's okay to It's okay to let it out. If you don't want to be seen because you're a man, you can lock yourself up in your room and just let it all out.
And he's not doing that. And he might not even have to do that, honestly. He might not even have to cry. But if he has other ways, and you see, this is where a professional comes in to work with him. If there are other healthy ways you can grieve. So he might not, some people are not given to crying at all. It just doesn't come. It might not come immediately. It might come 2 years later. And you just...
Oh my God.
Yeah.
As long as 2 years after.
Oh, yes. Yes. I had a lecturer say, she's also a grief, specialist. And she said after her grandmom died, she just moved on with life. She knew, she went for the funeral, everything, she was buried. And 2 years after, she was on the highway somewhere in the US. And it just occurred to her and she broke down on the highway. She had to park her car. And that's when she let it out. And when she called her dad was like, yes, we've been waiting for you. So sometimes people just need their space, but just ensure that it is not affecting them. They have to be willing also to see a specialist to say, okay, these are things, yes, and then recommendations can be made. There's no one size fits all.
Okay. Now, there are those who will go to these people who are grieving, unfortunately, and begin to tell them, it is God that did it, the kind of things. Okay, so let me just ask, what are the things people should not say to those who are grieving now?
Oh, okay. I think one of the favorites is be strong. Right now. How do you want to tell?
That's not what you want to hear.
No, that's not what you want to hear. Be strong. How can I be strong? How? I've lost my property. I've lost maybe lives. Lives were also lost in the Ibadan explosion. I can't find my bearing right now. I'm confused.
I have no home.
I don't have a home. What am I strong about?
Yeah.
What am I going to be strong about? Oh, it is well. Yes, we understand, like I always say, the thing behind that, it is well, but
it is not well.
Right now, it ain't
not well.
It's not well with me. It's not well with my family. You're not prophesying doom, because that's how you accept reality. You know, and come to terms with it. So, I mean, and then tell people, if you need anything, call me. They're not going to call you. 70-80% of mourners or grievers, they don't call because they ask, like I said, there's what they call the grief brain, where you have brain fog and all of that. You don't remember things. They don't even, all they know is sometimes maybe they fall asleep, and some don't even fall asleep, and they're just moving, you know, like they're an autopilot. So you take the initiative. I remember when a friend's house got burnt, I think 2019, and we were all outside, and she was just looking. There were so many people. Everybody was talking. I hadn't even, you know, started on this journey of mine, and I just said, her house got burnt. Tonight they have to sleep, so they need pajamas, they need towel, they need toothbrush. The kids. I ran home from my own stuff. I just packed, and she was like, thank you, you know, thank you, because that's it. So take the initiative. They've lost a home right now. I know the Oyo State government said they were going to provide accommodation for them.
They already did. They sent them to hotels.
Hotels. Yeah, so some people might not even like the hotels. So you're like, okay, you have a spare room. Do you want to come? Your kids, taking the kids to school. Okay, what are they going to do? So think for them, think ahead. And like I always say, and I mean, this is so dear to me. When I lost my mom, I didn't realize I was going to be needing food in the house, soup, and a friend cooked a cooler of stew, and that's when I was like, oh, that's true. I actually need food.
Going to eat.
You know, because I was so focused on, okay, she's dead, what's the next thing? I need to bury her. So right now they're probably like, oh, my certificate, my passport, my bank. So just you take the initiative and be there for them. Okay.
Now you're talking about collective grief now. The people who are in this space, as you said, they have a brain fog right now. They cannot think of collecting ourselves for grief. So who is going to do the thinking for them?
Well, their immediate, maybe friends, family members, relations, and their community, maybe church or mosque and things like that, could come together for them. Like I said, collective grief is unique, at the same time it's shared. So in your own little space, reach out to them. So you have friends who's lost their homes. Probably they don't even have money or something. Just do your own bit to give them succor in a way at this time. Okay. And then for the people, of course, who are in this, what they can do to move forward with life is, you pick up the pieces as one day at a time. Like I always tell my clients, is one day. Sometimes I even say it's an hour at a time. Don't think of 24 hours because it can be very daunting and it could just paralyze you. So take it, okay, what am I going to do today? What's within your control? So if, let's say, for instance, your certificate or your passport was in that, all the trash and all of that now, okay, so what can I do? Can I begin to go on the internet, the school? How can I do that? If it's so important to you, just the bits you can start with. Is it to go and start buying clothes now? Is it to start looking for accommodation? Okay.
Well, it's a lot to unpack. Do you think technology can help in this process?
Oh, yes.
How?
I mean, call them, send messages, you know, and all of that.
I'm talking about, do you think they can e-grief?
Oh yeah, people do that. People come and they create a page and they process their grief.
Group.
Yeah, especially on Instagram. You know, I see them a lot on Instagram. They create a page for themselves and they're talking about their grief, and people are following them. Yeah, so you can do that if that's the way you want to express your grief.
If it helps them.
If it helps them to, you know, unburden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's the underlying word there, unburden.
Unburden, yes,
Okay.
and unpack what you're going through.
John Pandey, grief counselor, thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for having
your
me.
thoughtfulness
Thank
about
you.
this. Okay, home stretch coming next. And that's when you talk about the he.
Yes. The he will be with us in just a moment. Please stay with us.